Okay guys, welcome to Crazy Burger. So it's been dropped, the official news, the third collection will be Piko Collection 3. It was accidentally dropped by Funstock at the weekend, in error, but yeah, we now know it's been officially announced. And what we're going to do in this video is look at all the games, play through every single one of them, and I'll give you my opinion on what these games are actually like. Without further ado, let's get started with the video. Okay guys, let's have a look at this. It's Piko Collection 3. I have to say Piko Collection 1 was certainly one of my most favourite carts. One of the earlier carts, and it was great value for money. 20 games it had, and it was really cool. The second collection I wasn't really that keen on. This third collection, hard to say at the moment until I played these games. It's got 10 games, and here's the information about those games. Quite a brief sort of look at them. We've got 40 Winks, which is a 32-bit PlayStation version. There also was an N64 version, but highly unlikely we'll get that. Legend of Wukong, which is a Mega Drive game. Metal Mech, Man and Machine, a NES title. Motor City Patrol, which is also a NES title. Punch King, which is a Game Boy Advance game. Radikal Bikers, which is a previously unreleased Game Boy Color game. And Stanley, The Search for Dr. Livingstone, which is NES. Super Bubble Pop, which I think is another Game Boy Advance game. Sword of Sodan, which is a Mega Drive game, and Zero Tolerance. Now the ones that sort of stick out for me are 40 Winks and Zero Tolerance. Probably the best games, I guess, on there. I think Zero Tolerance is probably the best one for me because it's a first-person shooter. It's not amazing, but it's pretty good. And the fact we don't really have a lot of first-person shooters on Evercade, probably only one, which is Cybervirus, which isn't really a first-person shooter for me. And before we sort of jump in there, guys, there is some information regarding some of the value of some of the cards. Like Motor City Patrol can fetch up to $150 for a complete box on NES. It's not worth that. It really isn't a great game. But anyway, they're putting that in there just so you think you're getting a value cart if you're trying to buy these games physical. Anyway, let's carry on. Okay, so 40 Winks. This is the game that's probably the cover star of this cart. This is a PlayStation 1 game, and I definitely remember this back in the day. I didn't actually own this game at the time. I did play the demo version though. I'm pretty sure this was on one of the PlayStation magazines at the time, probably the official PlayStation mag as a demo, and I definitely played it. But it probably didn't blow me away, and the reason for that was at that time 3D style games were much better, arguably, on the Nintendo 64. And if I recall at the time, I was probably playing more so like games like Super Mario 64 and more so Banjo-Kazooie, which this game reminds me so much of, and this isn't quite as good as Banjo-Kazooie, but it's actually not bad once you get into it. So you can probably see once you get started that it certainly does remind me of Banjo-Kazooie. You need to collect a lot of different things and collectibles, cogs, I think it is you need to do. Kill the bad guys, collect the cogs, collect enough cogs, blah blah blah. So you play, I think it's either Rough or Tumble, which is obviously an Amiga game if I recall. You know, it's okay, it's obviously very similar to a lot of 3D style games that were on the PlayStation at the time. The camera was all over the place. You can control the camera with the shoulder buttons. Hopefully that does work as well on the Evercade as well. You've got jump and you've got attack, and then you've got some kind of crazy shout thing that's going on as well here. It's actually alright. I think it'll probably come into its own on the Evercade and sort of more people discover it and play it. Obviously back in the day I definitely dismissed it, but it's actually not bad. It's quite good fun to play once you get into it. So some of these gameplay videos will be quite long, so what I've done is I've left some chapters in the description and you can jump to your favourite game that you want to have a look at or jump past once you've had enough of this game, for example. So it will be quite a long, lengthy video, and I don't expect everyone to watch every single second, but if you do, thanks very much. Anyway, check out the chapters, skip whatever you don't want to watch.
Bye-bye. Wow. 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 Bye-bye. Wow.
Okay, moving on to Zero Tolerance, which was a first-person shooter on the Mega Drive back in the day, 1996 or so, or something like that. And there only was, I think, 3 first-person shooters on the Mega Drive. I never actually played any of them at the time. I think 1996, so at that point I was probably already moving on to PlayStation at that point, and yeah, Mega Drive was gathering dust. But anyway, this is Zero Tolerance, which is actually not bad. It's probably my favourite game on this collection, and I actually played it fairly recently when Piko had picked it up and it appeared on, I think it appeared on AdStream or some other form somewhere, and it's actually quite good fun. The only thing I don't like, I guess, is that the actual screen, your movement screen, is quite a small box, and I guess that's the only way they could get around to play these things on basically underpowered hardware at the time. And it works, it's not bad, it's actually quite quick. You can see the box is actually very, very small that you're looking out of. But they've done the same with Doom on the 32X, I think it was. Or was it the Mega CD? I can't remember now. 32X, and it was like a small box that you had to see. It wasn't full screen. Anyway, it's actually alright, it's quite good fun, but the movement of the enemies is a little bit it's kind of a bit all over the place. They do seem to jump all over and sort of in front of you, behind you, just as if they're on rails or something. But it's still good fun. The collision detection does seem a little bit weird. You could really shoot anywhere and you could probably hit something. But regardless of all those sort of nitpicks, it's actually a good fun game. For the Mega Drive, I think, wow, it's quite amazing that we had a first-person shooter on the Mega Drive. And it's coming to the Evercade. I'm really looking forward to playing that. I'm a little bit worrying about the size of the screen, how that will sort of look on the Evercade handheld, whether it will be too small. Hard to say. I mean, if you look at the size of that screen, playing it on the smaller handheld screen might be a bit weird. But it's still a good game. I really like it, and I think probably is my favourite game from this collection. So if you've never played it before, I'd certainly highly recommend it. It's definitely no Doom beater, that's for sure, but it's still pretty good. I think it's actually pretty decent. And by the way, the aim of this is basically to clear the enemies that you see in this, I think it's an off-planet facility here. Clear the enemies and get to the next floor, and then just keep carrying on. And once you die, you move on to the next character type of thing. But yeah, it's a decent enough game.
Handgun collected. Handgun collected. Handgun collected. Handgun collected. Handgun collected. Shotgun collected. Shotgun collected. Medipack collected. Handgun collected. Handgun collected. Handgun collected. Handgun collected. Handgun collected. Shotgun collected. Collected. Handgun collected. Critical. Gun collected. Handgun collected. Gun collected. Handgun collected. Handgun collected. Shotgun collected. Handgun collected.
Okay, so this is Legend of Wukong, which I believe was a previously unreleased game outside of China, but it was recently, or fairly recently, translated into English, and then obviously Piko have picked up this license and now we have it on Evercade, which is pretty cool, and it seems a pretty decent standard style RPG. Obviously you can see on screen you're kind of somehow sent through time in a spaceship, and you've accidentally found yourself in this other land, blah blah blah, that kind of crazy story. And you know, it's alright, it's got all the usual elements that you would find. You've got the random battles that pop up every now and again, which are just absolutely annoying. It did remind me quite closely to Breath of Fire, which is on the Evercade EXP Capcom collection. It's a little bit like that. I found the controls were maybe a little bit awkward at times. I felt that the character was not moving where I thought or wanted it to move. It was a bit awkward, but it seems okay. I'm obviously not played it enough to give it a full sort of a idea of what it's actually like, because you really need to play these type of thing for hours upon hours upon hours before you really get a good idea of what the game's like and what you need to do. But the basics seem pretty good, and I'll let you watch the actual gameplay now. It's actually alright. I think this will probably be quite popular. Okay, so this game is Stanley, The Search for Dr. Livingstone, which is on the NES, and another game which I'd never actually heard of or played, and I've only actually played 2 games out of the 10, the rest I'd absolutely never heard of. I'm not sure, that's obviously not a bad thing, there might be some hidden gems in here, but I can probably say this isn't really a hidden gem. You're obviously in the search for Dr. Livingstone, and some kind of, he's been captured or he's stuck with some African tribe somewhere. The start of this level, there's some RPG elements, you can talk to the characters, some of your equipment has been lost or it's been stolen, so you basically start the game, you need to find those items of equipment that have been stolen or they've got lost. And yeah, you can see you've got jump, you've got an attack button as well, there's some other sort of weapons that you can find here that you probably need to use to take out the enemies. You can interact with a lot of the characters. Yeah, it's kind of a dull, it's a bit boring. The controls are a little bit rough, I'd say, especially when you get to the jungle level and you're trying to sort of climb the ladders or go down the ladders or avoid some of the enemies. It just becomes a bit tedious and it becomes a bit unnecessarily difficult to play. I did enjoy this one, it's not terrible, I just didn't really enjoy playing it so much, and I doubt very much I'll want to pick it up and give it a lengthy play when it does land on Evercade. But some people might like this one, it's probably got some charm to it I guess if you like this type of thing, but I think I just found it too rough to be enjoyable. But yeah, it's got something, I'm sure there's fans out there for this game. Okay, let's move on to a Game Boy Advance game. This is Super Bubble Pop, and the best way of describing this is it's basically Bust a Move in 3D. I quite enjoyed it, it was alright, pretty straightforward. You're basically just matching up 3 colours or more to sort of try and clear the grid as you see on the screen here. And it was quite good, it was quite addictive stuff. it's really that basic. There was nothing more really to say. It's bust a move in 3D, and I quite enjoyed it. It's not bad at all. Good fun. Pretty addictive. Might get a little bit boring right enough, but yeah, it's not got that addictive nature of bust a move, but it's still pretty decent. Okay, this is Metal Mech, Man and Machine on the NES. Never heard of it either, but it's actually okay. You're obviously starting off, you're in this metal machine, much like a Robocop style Ed 209, I think it was at the time. But you need to sort of jump in and out of the machine with your character here, because there's some radioactive elements that you need to destroy or capture that's on top of these buildings, so you need to jump between both, but just need to remember once you jump out you're very vulnerable to enemy fire. You can only take a few hits and you'll die instantly. However, when you're in the machine you can take numerous hits and you'll be absolutely fine. You can jump on the enemy's head as well, obviously you've got a lot of firepower, but I did find it really difficult to specifically shoot at one of these enemies. I just felt as if just blind firing all the time, which is a bit weird and a little bit disappointing. I just feel as if I'm firing here but I can't really aim at a specific enemy, which is kind of awkward. But that's the only nitpick. I thought the game's actually alright. It seems good fun to play. A little bit tricky. You obviously have to be aware that once your character has jumped out you're really vulnerable and there's enemies popping up all over the place. The enemies just reappear randomly at any given time. They just seem to spawn all the time. It's a typical NES style game, but it's a decent enough game. It's alright, it's good fun to play, and it's nice to see. This could be a kind of a hidden gem. It's not bad. I found it quite difficult right enough, but it's actually good fun. Okay, so this is Radikal Bikers, a previously unreleased game on the Game Boy Color. Not the first Game Boy Color on Evercade though, possibly the second, I think. But yeah, this is alright. This is a prototype version of the game. There's a few different modes on it. There was a out and out race or a kind of a time trial thing, and it's it's actually quite a nice looking game. It handles really well. It's quite good fun. Very basic and simple to pick up. You're basically just press the B button or whatever button it will be on the Evercade to accelerate on your bike and make your way around the corners, avoid the traffic and collect the coins and all sorts that you see. Or if it's the race part of the game, you obviously need to try and win the race kind of thing without crashing. Yeah, and do you know what? I actually really enjoyed this. It kind of came to a bit of a surprise. It's pretty addictive. I think this will work really well on the sort of handheld. It looks really nice, very colourful. I wonder if they'll be able to make it a 4-player game right enough on the VS. Not sure if that's going to be a thing. As I say, this is a prototype version of the game because it was previously unreleased. But yeah, it's quite good. Piko have picked this up and we'll now get it on the Evercade at some point. I guess that'll be pretty cool. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, so this is Motor City Patrol, which was done in conjunction with Matchbox back in the day. Now, I'd expect all the references to Matchbox to disappear when the Evercade version gets released. But basically, you're a cop, and your mission is to basically capture the robbers or the speeders within this section of the city that you're allocated to. I guess on first look, you might think, oh, it's a Grand Theft Auto style game, and yeah, that's the first thing I thought of, but don't be mistaken, you can't get out the car, you're very limited to what you're doing, you have no idea where you're going because there's the map, you have to press another button, basically the start button, to try and look at the map to figure out where you're going, and it's total aimless. You're doing this all the time and you're getting nowhere fast. So the idea is you're the cop, you need to then figure out which cars are the ones that you need to stop, and the way to stop them is put your siren on the car and then basically just drive in front of the car and stop the car from going, and it'll disappear and give you points. But yeah, this is terrible. It really isn't a good game at all. I think some people might get some enjoyment out of it, but I felt the controls were all over the place, uncontrollable. You need to refer to the map all the time because you really don't know where you're going and which bad guys you need to take out, because there are normal civilians on the map as well, so it's not totally clear which enemies that you need to take out. Yeah, just not one for me. It's just a mess. And interestingly, this is the one that was mentioned on Blaze's website, that it was going for $150 for the hard copy of this game on the NES, which, you know, I don't see why you'd want to spend $1 on it because it's absolutely awful, unplayable, no fun, and it's just not one of these games that you're going to play any more than once or twice at best. Yeah, I would avoid this one. Yeah, yeah, head scratcher. Don't know why we need this crap, but it's here. It's actually been made by a UK based company on the NES, but I never heard of it. And if you look up some reviews on YouTube, it's not spoken of very highly at all.
Punch King!
Okay, we have a boxing game. This is Punch King. This is on the Game Boy Advance. And it actually looks really nice. Obviously a little bit rough here and there, but it still looks pretty decent. Remember, the Game Boy Advance was a 32-bit machine. And this is very much like Punch Out, I guess. And we just sort of punching into the screen type of thing. And I actually quite enjoyed this. I wasn't particularly good at it. You can't spam the buttons because you can see the green energy bar runs out pretty quick, and at that point you can't throw any punches because you have no energy to throw a punch. So you have to be a little bit strategic and maybe just tap punch every now and again, then try and land the big punch when you can. But it looks really nice. It's good fun to play. Yeah, it's good. And it's another boxing game on the Evercade. I think this one will be really popular. It's good fun. I wonder if you can play 2-player right enough on the VS. I'm not really sure if you can, but that would be good fun too, I think. Okay, Sword of Sodan. Amazingly, I'd never heard of this game before, and there's a good reason for that because it's absolutely awful. It's terrible. I mean, admittedly, the graphics are actually quite good. The graphics are quite big. Basically, the sprites are quite large of your fighters, but it's terrible. It really is absolutely shockingly bad. If you look on the internet for some of the worst games on Mega Drive, this one will most likely appear. It really is that bad. The moves are very limited. You can see the character moves as if they've got something stuck inside their, they need to go to the toilet. But oh, jeez, it's terrible. You've got very limited moves. You see the characters actually ignore you and run past, and then just come back to appear and stab you in the back. Very odd. And there's a bird chirping in the background just to make you feel so peaceful. What the hell is that all about? I have no idea. But yeah, all I can say is this game is absolutely garbage, and we just do not need this on Evercade. Unfortunately, it's going to be down as one of the worst games on Evercade. Probably not as bad as some, but yeah, arguably I probably would prefer to play Beast Wrestler than play this, and we probably had more fun, and that's not saying much at all. But anyway, overall thoughts on this collection. I'm not entirely sure right enough at the present time whether I like this cart or not. There are some good games on it. I certainly like Zero Tolerance. 40 Winks, I'm looking forward to maybe try and give it a proper play, because it seems to be a pretty decent game. I prefer Zero Tolerance right enough. The other games, I'm not sure about. This one, Sword of Sodan, forget it. Absolutely terrible. I'll never play this again. Well, I probably will. Legend of Wukong was okay, another RPG game. Stanley, The Search for Dr. Livingstone, it was alright. Super Bubble Pop was quite good. Metal Mech was alright. Radikal Bikers I quite enjoyed. Motor City Patrol was shockingly crap. And Punch King, the boxing game, was pretty good. So overall, it's a kind of a mixed bag. Some good, some bad, some awful. Anyway, guys, thanks very much for watching, and we'll catch you again in the next one. Bye for now.